Good morning, everyone. Jim Clark here at the Synchronicity Sanctuary in Central Virginia to share another contemplative focus with you today. And the focus I wanted to share with you today is, if there is only one consciousness, what else could possibly exist? There is only one. Consciousness is all. Unified within itself, it is eternally self-aware. It is always watching or witnessing, and since consciousness is all, it only ever watches or witnesses itself. So, in our human condition, within the illusion of our human egos and being a separate individual living on Earth, with that kind of a focus and that dominance in our focus, this rapid updating that's going on of the whole show, really, but we are updating ourselves. We're recreating ourselves at a rate that's roughly about 1,000,000 times a second. And this was first recorded way back with the Buddha when he described it in the math of those times. And but in order for anyone to actually witness this process, you have to slow yourself down and be so still and so consistently still that you can actually see this. So this is really not something that most people will ever have in their lives to witness themselves. But it draws upon something that's very important. If you're a meditator and if you're trying to raise your own awareness, you're trying to raise your own consciousness, then it's very imperative, because to realize that we are refreshing ourselves, we're actually recreating our whole experience of ourselves so many times a second that there's all this opportunity to get rid of all the definitions and data and stories that we have created through our life that defines who we are and what life is for us. So if you can do that, if you can maintain a consistent focus on something truthful, on something more blissful and more aware and more celebratory of life, then as that update happens, a lot of the data that you're going to repeat, you've been repeating on this updating, will not happen. You'll clear the way to fully be who you truly are, and that is to experience yourself as source consciousness while you're still in human form. So in order to do that, you have to realize that if you keep your focus on your history, if you keep repeating definitions of yourself on a daily basis, then that's what you're going to keep getting. But if you can slow yourself down and consistently remind yourself every day that you are consciousness, that you are the source consciousness that is all and everything. Or if that's too much, just create yourself newly in a very positive way and give yourself your own mantra and practice that every day until that is dominant in your focus. As long as we keep ourselves mesmerized in the external world and all the happenings with our egos and all this, then all the history that we keep repeating is still intact, and it's going to keep repeating itself until we can release it, until we can let go of it. Now, meditation itself, as a balancing technique, is one of the primary means that we use to help reduce the amount of history that we keep repeating, and which is called the clearing process. And that's one practice that we must do if we're going to try to free ourselves from the chains of our past and this illusion of being a separate human being, because that is an illusion, but it's one that is so powerful and so strong that unless you put a lot of effort consistently into slowing yourself down through meditation and a holistic lifestyle that supports meditation, balance yourself so that your polarities are no longer dominantly negative, which means that you're no longer dominantly focused on the negative, the physical appearance of being a human being as something separate from everything else in your world. Think of that just for a moment. Just focus on the fact that when you are up and about, when you're going through your day, you are an individual separate from everything. But you're watching everything. You're aware of everything around you in your world, and you're reacting or forming opinions about what's in your world, etc., etc. It's a very unconscious kind of a thing that just happens from being awake, at least at the level of a human experience. So as you accumulate data, if you counter that with your own mantra, if you keep reminding yourself that you are consciousness, source consciousness, and that is all you are, that's the totality of your real truthful existence, and that this body and this ego is just here for you to have this experience. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not the be-all and end-all of what life is all about. What life is all about is waking up to the truth of who you are. This is the name of the game consciousness has consciously chosen to create. It's pretending to be all the human beings in the world. It's pretending to be all the animals. It's pretending to be all the planets. It's pretending to be what it is not. That's how my teacher used to put it all the time. And the game is to wake up to who you truly are. And that's what consciousness is doing. Every time a human being has a major breakthrough and realizes who they truly are and fosters that until they are established in that, so that it's not a one-moment experience that fades away over time, then they are expressing the completion of the intention in consciousness to fully be itself. And this is a great thing, but it's a very rare thing, and it's traditionally it's been a process of years of meditation and holistic lifestyle where you practice and you consciously hold yourself to a universal consciousness focus of some kind, and that way you foster that information as something that you repeat rather than unconscious stories about who you were at one point, your history and your parents and so forth, and all your human experience. Rather than going into that part of your existence, which is still happening, recedes into the background of something bigger, something more permanent, and something more real, and that is your connection to everything, your connection to all of life, and your experience of life as being a celebratory experience that goes from moment to moment to moment, so that you're enjoying life, you're encouraging life, and you're very nurturing of life. In other words, you're shifting from a fear-based experience with this kind of a practice to a love-based experience where you're including everything, because everything is consciousness. So what's there to worry about? What's there to exclude? Consciousness can't exclude itself. It can pretend to, but it can't really do that. And that's not the purpose of the creation of the human experience. So as you go through your life, as you go through your day, if there is only one consciousness, what else could possibly exist would be a great mantra to practice. What else could there be? Now, in the illusion of everything else, of being something other than consciousness, you're aware that you're pretending to be who you are as a human being, because that's the game that we're playing, and that's the game that also gives you the opportunity within the game to wake up to the truth of who you are. And doing these practices, doing the meditation on a daily basis, focusing on your truth exponentially as you gain more balance, because as you gain more balance, the polarities shift in terms of a dominant negative polarity, which is very restrictive and very illusory, to a dominant positive focus, which is where you start to connect yourself to subtler levels of your own existence. And this is your vertical polarities that go from the isolated individual awareness to the awareness of all and everything. And there's the horizontal polarities that you also are balancing with meditation and a holistic lifestyle, which are balancing all the polarities within you, within your body, within your human experience. And as your mental, emotional, and physical dimensions become more and more balanced, then that vertical polarity begins to become active. And once that is active, then you are in touch with yourself at a very, very subtle level where the truth of yourself is much more dominant than it is when you're restricted to the human experience and the flesh and blood experience of separation and isolation. And so this is just a natural process of expanding your awareness. And if you expand your awareness enough, you become so aware of yourself as consciousness and so aware of the fact that everything is consciousness, that then you are freed from that restriction, you're freed from fear, and you're immersed in a love-based experience, and you embrace your human experience with the same love that you embrace the truth of who you are, because they're the same. They just don't look that way. And as you keep going and keep practicing your meditation, this freedom that you experience as you become more and more aware only increases. So this is why many yogis in history have isolated themselves and never wanted to interact with other human beings very much unless they were also meditators, because they were so immersed in the joy of being aware and being free of the illusion of their human body, that's all they wanted to do, and they wanted to nurture that and remain in that experience so that nothing else could interfere with it. And so, which we can't do very much today. We don't have much opportunity to isolate ourselves in this day and age, and less isolation happens today because of the internet and this constant bombardment of information coming at us every which way, and in every moment, to lock ourselves in even more into the illusion rather than the truth. And it's our choice. If we meditate on a daily basis, if we consciously choose to define ourselves as something that is more truthful, then eventually all that old data that keeps repeating itself every time this illusion updates itself, instead of overlaying that update with our old data, then we can free ourselves from it just by allowing the update to be what it is, which is consciousness, without all the data, without all the beliefs, without the restrictions of a definition of yourself as a human being. But yet you still are having that experience as a human being, so that the simultaneous experience is one that you're totally aware of. It's still consciousness only watching itself. It's watching itself as an illusory human being, and it's watching itself, as source consciousness. But it's doing this simultaneously. And when this happens for yourself, you are totally free from the bondage of believing you are just the ego that you always thought you were. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, and I hope it inspires somebody to take up meditation, or to meditate more, or to get excited about what is potentially possible for you in your life, and the experience that you can have if you only give yourself to that. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, and I'll be back again in a couple of weeks, and then we'll just begin again and keep reminding ourselves that we are source consciousness, because that is all that exists. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.